Hey again, thank you for joining us for Out on the Limb podcast with Samantha and Will and I, live in studio here at the Treehouse, where Samantha graciously joined us in person.
Yes.
Because she doesn't really mind driving too much. We love that about her.
That's right.
That's one of the many things we love about her.
That's
but
right.
today we're going to chit-chat about ETs, extraterrestrials, aliens, but they don't like that word alien, just letting you know. And we don't know where this is going to go.
Nope.
We're just going to start talking about how sort of, I guess, how did ETs come into our awareness, our experience, what is our background with them, what do we know, and just see where we go from there. Mm-hmm. So Samantha, you had started by asking, have we asked the collective about ETs? Mm-hmm. And the collective, for those of you who are new, is Will's team of guides, and they consist of Archangel Raphael, Archangel Michael, Enoch from the Bible, and Source. And so obviously those are not ETs. However, the collective came actually after, if I recall correctly, after your Zeta made contact with you during those initial QHHT sessions, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so what I recall from that happening is that practitioner, the QHHT practitioner, when that was still happening in our house, after the first time that you channeled Enoch, she came back for weekly sessions for a couple of weeks in a row, and she wanted to explore. Well, the next time she dropped you in, you went into a life as the Zeta.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so your body.
You actually,
I thought
you channeled it. I didn't realize that you.
I embodied. I embodied it.
Well, and what was coming out was basically channeling, because you were it.
Yeah, I was in my channeling state, so I was in the trance state, and where this came from was, this came from a question of, I've had this reoccurring dream as a child of a UFO in some woods, kind of on a hillside. And that was it. And I've always been weirded out by aliens, like petrified of the big googly-eyed, big-headed, gangly, aliens, the things you see on the
movies. Where they say
movies.
the tall whites.
Or the tall grays, which is essentially what the Zeta is.
Yeah, something like that. And
so he is one.
Right. So I asked the question.
Was one.
And
he is still.
We'll
get to that.
So,
okay.
Right. That's where we're leading to. And so I got to kind of set the stage here so you understand. Yeah. So I had that question about this reoccurring dream and all of this. And now
you gotta be looking at them a little bit more as you're just turn your body a little bit, because they just need to
you need to see this. All right. Here we go.
Tell them the story.
I'll tell them the story. So, the thing is during this QHHT session, I had a series of questions, and it all revolved around that reoccurring dream, and why did I have this reoccurring dream? And I literally had that reoccurring dream probably every 3 or 4 months, all the way until mid-20s, while I was in the military still, and I'd be underway and sleeping and get this reoccurring dream, and it would freak me out, unsettle me. So then during this QHHT session, I had the practitioner ask the question while I was in trance. And
about the dream.
About the dream. Yeah, about the reoccurring dream. And so I can replay it now because I understand it. But apparently, and I don't know, were you in the room for that question or not?
I don't think
at
in
that
room
point,
no.
During that particular session. But apparently, according to the practitioner, my body stiffened up, and she could almost as if my legs and my arms started lengthening and stretching it out beyond, right? And she could see this underneath the blanket, and it was quite interesting. So she kept exploring, and what it ended up being is that I have a parallel, and this might be hard for someone to believe, but I have a parallel existence as one of these grays, one of these gangly, long-limbed, big-eyed beings.
So it evolved kind of like as a past life type of thing.
Yes, it evolved as a past.
So you were describing, the practitioner will start asking, well, where are you? What are you seeing around you? And you were describing a ship. You were in a ship. And you described, that there were people at the controls, there were people in the...
That's correct. Yeah, different parts of the ship. I was describing the internals of the ship, a big, the engine room, the control room, the basically the bridge, that kind of thing. Describing all these different places, and then through some further questioning, that's where it was revealed that it's a parallel life that I have. And what's so then obviously then the next question is from the practitioner, not my questions. She then understood, let's go with this and figure out where this leads. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of having this parallel existence? And the truth of it is, he is the one, my Zeta is the one that's been intuitively giving me information on mechanical and diagnostic information. So what does that mean? I have an ability to look at a piece of machinery, look at something that I've never set my eyes on before, and it may be that it's not functioning, it's not working, and I look at it and I sit with it for a moment, but I don't immediately fix it. I go to bed. It might take a night or two, but in the course of those next coming nights, I'm literally downloaded a blueprint in my head of this item, and I know exactly how to take it apart, how to function it, how to repair it, and put it back together, and it's good to go. Same thing with diagnostic. I can look at something, get the information, it's downloaded in me, and
But
move
the
forward.
interesting thing is that how they explained your dream was that was your seeding.
Right. It was
So
my.
for those of you who aren't aware, all of humanity on this earth we were seeded
That's correct.
by other beings, by 12 original
Yes. So
starseeds.
they showed me being the reason that was a reoccurring dream. It was reminding me of being brought in on that ship, seeded to the planet as a human, and then going about my life. But I never saw the rest of the story until that hypnosis session.
Right, it was
So Zetas are
fascinating.
one of the races?
The Zetas are not one of the
They're
original
a
12.
hybrid.
Okay.
I don't know that you were. I don't think you weren't seeded by the Zetas, but you have a
Right.
parallel life as a Zeta.
Oh, okay.
But you were seeded by whatever.
Again,
Okay.
when I'm in
By
trance, I
whatever
don't,
race.
there's a lot that I don't remember. So, but here's the thing is later on, as Allison started inducing me and I started inducing myself into this, she would call upon the Zeta because they're very technical and they wanted to bring in information and express stuff about what's going on the planet and that kind of thing. Well, there was a point at which, they started coming in, or my Zeta started coming in, and I literally saw the overlay of the Zeta face over mine, and I was looking through the Zeta face as I was addressing the individuals in the room that were asking questions.
That was weird.
I came out of that session and I was a little freaked out, but I knew that, okay, well, that's just another aspect of me. That's another reality of me. That's another existence of me. So there's nothing to really be afraid of. It's just my physical form, my human form in that session was a little freaked out by that. So it took me a while to work back to the point at which it was like, okay, you can call the Zetas back in now because I'm ready to I'm ready to work with them again.
Right, and at the beginning of the channeling, then we figured out the collective, but we also at that time considered our Zeta, I call him our Zeta, as part of the collective.
That's right. Yeah.
So a lot of the questions were geared towards him because he could check his little computer database and he could answer just about any question for us. But it's interesting to know because he's at the 5D level in a ship above Earth, and there are a multitude of different races on that ship watching what's happening with humanity. And so
There's a whole other topic.
Right. And so what we've learned over time is, all of the different dimensionality of these beings and the differences between connecting with a 5D being, for example, or a 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensional being, which is going to be a lot more philosophical and clear and loving and higher level information. But it is important if you're communicating with any of these beings to know who it is you're communicating with and what level they're on, because that's going to determine the context in which you receive that information.
And it's funny. I'm sitting here
context.
and I'm hearing obviously what I'm saying, and I'm hearing the conversation. We probably should have prefaced this episode with just displace reality for a moment and while you listen to this, right? Because
I don't want to say, take what resonates with you, please.
because there is going to be some concepts and some of these conversations that you may have never heard before, and that's okay. And just enjoy the ride. and
Suspend your belief system.
suspend your belief system
Temporarily.
just temporarily, right? Exactly.
Well, and we don't have all the answers. Like
No.
even like when I start talking about the progression of the soul with people, how the 9 levels of our experience or whatever, it's only within a certain realm. It's not like the universes that are exponentially higher outside of us. Like it's because and our minds can't even like grasp a lot of the stuff we're talking about. It's just as we talk about it, we get more comfortable, and then more is revealed to us. It's like you level up into this information, but it doesn't mean that we have it all figured out, or that our brains can even contain, like the whole concept that it's all happening right now in multiple like dimensions, or whatever. It's like, okay, stop.
Yeah, and it's about the multidimensional aspect of all of us,
Yeah.
because we do have a starseed dimension, and we might have past life realms that we know about, and future lives, parallel lives, all sorts of dimensions of ourself. It's not just this
When you
physical
said that,
body.
I was ready for you to say demented sides of ourselves.
Some of them are. Some are. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think that I've, in a short amount of time, because I can't deny it, I couldn't deny it as it's happening, is this aspect of different reality points or different aspects of myself. It's knowing that I can sit here and talk about it is one aspect. Tonight, if, we sat down for a channeling, I could dip into another reality point and bring forth that information, or another reality point. So when you realize how dimensional reality is, it's not linear. It's not just one line you're living, this.
It's not this one truth.
It's a web. It's a web, like a spider web you've never seen before. And each point of that web connects to another point, that node, that's another reality point. And we're connected to it all. The best example of that is Interstellar, at the very end of the movie, where he's in the multidimensionality.
Did you feel your brain just going, whoa?
Every time I watch that movie, my brain just goes on fire, because now it all makes sense. When I first watched it, I was like, I'm confused, but now I understand. And it's him in this multidimensional space, reaching into one aspect of his own reality.
Or one little segment of time.
One little segment of time. And that's exactly what we're living now. And so to say that, yes, that I have a parallel life on a ship that exists outside of our planet that's, out in space, sure, that's hard to conceive. But that's my reality, because I can't deny that because of the information that I've received, And I mean, and this isn't coming from ego, but there are so many of my superiors that I've worked for that they knew to call upon Brown to fix this or that because he's got a gift. What's that gift? And I just thought I just knew things. Sure, I knew things.
Do you know how hard it is to live with somebody, by the way, like that?
That's
because he expects that this is normal and that everybody else thinks the way that he does and should know these things.
That's right.
So,
but so it is difficult at times. There's a bit of expectation for myself to be able to do certain things, and there's a lot of expectation for other people of me to do those things. And so it's.
But you've done okay. So there was a thing where he had this necklace, this charm thing that he really liked, and it had broken, and he couldn't find someone to fix it for him, so he's just like, I'm going to fix it myself.
I'll make one myself.
And it was very complex. It was not you're not a jeweler.
Nope.
And yet he goes, oh, look what I did. This he describes it, so it's a little crazy.
It is. You're right. It is. But when I now that I understand, and that was the amazing aspect of having a QHHT session and then subsequent BQH sessions leading to all of this. You don't know. You've said it before. I think you don't know what you know until or you don't know what you know until you don't know it or know it. Right.
Like,
that kind of thing.
Don't know what you don't know till you do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't even understand what other realities were. I didn't have a concept of what that meant.
Which is why it was very valid, because he had no idea.
But
And
now when I can put it all back
Yeah.
together and look back upon my life of where he, my Zeta, entered in and gave me all of that information, how to do this, how to fix that, how to repair, how to build this thing.
And just to clear the record, and then I want to hear Samantha's foray into this whole ET realm, but all Zetas, all Greys are not bad.
No.
There are factions of them, of course, like there are in humanity, that
Yes.
don't have humans' best interest at heart. But even so, many of them, it's not that they want to do harm to humans, it's that they don't understand emotions. They've bred that out of themselves. So they don't understand fear. Like when they come to you in the middle of the night, why would you be afraid? They have no idea. Why would you be afraid of that, right? Or your emotional state. They just don't understand that. So they're more clinical. They're coming in, trying to do whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But I just want to put that out there because I know there's a lot of stigma against
Yeah.
the Greys.
Well, and against a lot of the different races, the different hybridized
Anything that's
races.
not us. And even among us on Earth,
Sure.
there's, a lot of stigma. So,
Yeah.
so we set ourselves up to be, afraid of everything.
And we
you
put
know?
that paradigm on other realms. We put those characteristics on God. We put those characteristics on ETs,
It's
because
ridiculous, yeah.
And I just to round it out, a lot of people have asked me, have you ever seen your Zeta? Have you seen his ship? Have you, has he come to you physically to you? No. I just know his presence and I know the downloads I get from him. So
early on we asked him if he would come, or even in a dream state if he would come, and he said, you'd probably
That make
be
you love
afraid.
me?
You'd be afraid. It would not be
Yeah.
palatable for you.
Oh,
to
that's
see me.
interesting.
Yeah.
And he said, if we can communicate and you understand that I exist, there's no need for me to show up in person. So,
Yeah.
but what was your first experience with ET? I mean, what?
Well, I was going to say, the thing is, when you here we go back to the knowing, but when you know, like
Right.
when you experience something, it's like if you have a dream at night where you have a visitation from a loved one who's
Sure.
crossed over, whatever, like that they were there, that was them. There is no doubt in your mind. Like it is such a strong conviction of
Yes.
feeling.
Yeah.
And, so that's when you have these kinds of experiences. I used to not be so into the whole ET thing because I'm one of those people that until I experience it, I'm going to entertain all possibilities. But until you experience it, what do you know? Because you can't
Right.
possibly know it.
That's right.
Okay, so my experience. I am out in my son and I were taking a road trip across
Wait.
the United States. What?
I don't mean to interrupt, but I
No,
know
please
this.
do.
I know this story, and this is a fantastic story, and I want you to share. But you believed in ETs before that, right?
Well, I assumed that they existed, but I would never sit here and carry on a conversation about ETs
Okay.
because I didn't
So
really.
it just simply wasn't in your paradigm, but you believed that they probably
yeah, well,
existed.
there's what is that? Whatever of the fourth kind contact.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That movie, yeah, Spielberg, whatever. I'd seen things like that, and I always thought how frightening. I'd be like, oh, it'd be so cool to see one.
Yeah.
But then I'd imagine it and be like, oh God, I'd be terrified. So of course, right there, that split energy, that's not ever going to happen.
Okay.
And I'd never met
So this
anyone who had experienced
really
it.
was your first.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of boom.
First
intro.
major
Here
encounter.
we are. Okay. go
Yeah.
ahead. I'm
All
sorry.
right.
Which people are like, oh, it's the first, second, third, fourth encounter.
Yeah.
I don't know, on the range of whatevers. I am not even a geek enough to know that. So, so we're doing this road trip across the country to California. It's my son and myself in our minivan. And we get the bright idea to leave Phoenix at sunset. So we're in Arizona getting ready to cross, I think it's the Maricopa Desert or something, something like that. Anyway, where apparently there are a lot of ET sightings. Okay. So, and of course there's also Air Force bases. So everybody's like, oh no, has to be,
You're right.
It's not AT. It's government.
Yeah.
Yeah. Secret.
But when
technology.
when you encounter this, you freaking know.
Yeah.
So we're driving down the road, and my son's driving, and I'm sitting there with my cell phone. I literally had my cell phone in my hand, okay? And I'm looking for a hotel down the road where we're going to stay for the night. And as I am sitting there looking through this, all of a sudden, the sun's starting to set, and you can see these mountains way off in the distance. And there's a couple of, I don't know what you call them, but they're like these little mounds closer to us. They're bigger, twice as big as a car is.
Oh.
So they're just like here and there. And that, I only say that because that gives us a reference point of height, space. Like otherwise, if you're out in the desert, nothing makes sense.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but because we had this going on, we were able to suss it out a little bit. So I'm sitting there looking at my phone, or figuring out the hotel, and my son, he's like, "What am I seeing? What am I seeing? What am I seeing?" Like that, and I'm like, "What?" And I look up because I'm thinking, okay, it's gonna be some desert animal. This is gonna be really freaking cool, or what? I look up, and in the sky, I see what I saw was 3 sets of lights. Except they were like 3 here, 3 here. And you could tell because of the line that they were on and everything that it was like part of a bigger ship.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So it was one ship.
Yeah.
And we're looking at it, and it's like you can kind of sense the outline, but not really. So I couldn't say is it disc or whatever, but that was the feeling of it.
Okay.
All I know is that, seeing these 3 lights, and they weren't round, they were kind of oblong, next to each other. And, but they were separate, distinct. And, so I'm looking up, trying to understand, like your mind just starts going, you're looking through everything in your mind.
The whole Rolodex.
The Rolodex is pulling up. Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know how he continued driving. And we start, okay, understand the whole time I've got the phone in my hand.
Right.
I could easily pick it up and take a picture.
This is why there are no good photos of any UFOs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because when this happens,
your brain goes on to hyperdrive. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't even get it up quickly enough to catch a picture of a bird. I'm
Right.
not going to catch a UFO. So he's driving along, and we start looking around us going, is anyone else seeing this?
So there were other cars on the road.
Yeah, just rarely, but there were just a few. And it was interesting because we don't know if they were freaking out, but it didn't seem like anyone was freaking out. I mean, we thought people would pull over the side of the road. I mean, it wasn't like jam-packed. It would be like, well, there's one off in the distance and one up there. So we kept thinking something was going to happen here. And I mean, like, we are sharing information. That's how long it is up and right in front of us. We are looking at like, okay, this mountain's right here and those are off there. And so we could, I'm bad with distances, so I couldn't say how far off it was. But it doesn't help for me to say, oh, it seems like the circumference would have been probably a lot bigger than the space we're in right now.
Right.
I can't even, like, if you look at the size of what's the triangular space, the triangular fighter?
Stealth fighter.
Yeah, bigger than a stealth fighter, definitely. A lot bigger. Like, you probably set a couple of those in there.
So it wasn't translucent, but it actually filled space in the sky enough.
It filled space in the sky. Like, but it's like we couldn't. So what was weird is it was really clear at first, and then there's this haze.
Okay.
That starts to come over, and you're thinking, again, our minds are working quickly, and we're going, okay, so is this like the desert? The desert's cooling off, and then this, whatever is coming up or whatever, and it's just like sitting there, and then all of a sudden, it's almost like it just kind of goes away from us, like directly just zoom, gone.
Oh wow.
And we're both like,
and still no picture.
Yeah, still no picture, no picture. And so we start sharing information, and my son had a slightly different perception where he thought that the 3 belonged to one and the 3 belonged to the other. But from the angle that I was seeing it, to me,
they were all connected.
Yeah, because it wasn't changing. It was, it was like there and staying steady. So anyway, where our hearts are pounding, we're just going like, holy crap, what's going on? And we're just floored. And then my son all of a sudden it occurs to him, he goes, can you make contact with the Mom? And I'm like, gee, I don't know. Can I? Let's give it a try, which is like the craziest idea. Cause, by that time we had done several experiments, over the past year where we had, connected with Einstein. Mm-hmm. We had done a channeling with Jesus. We'd done a couple of channelings.
For reference point, how long ago was this?
This is 2019.
19. Okay. And we're in 23.
Spring of 2019.
So, okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
Anyway, I get into, just relax, close my eyes, and he starts asking questions, and I'm just reaching out to wherever. And all of a sudden there is this answering voice.
Wow.
And it was kind of it was not okay. Like conceptually, I couldn't hear the voice, and yet I could.
Sure.
So it was kind of a higher pitched voice. So instantly my mind's going, okay, let's make of this what we can, So this has to be a smaller being because it's a higher pitched voice,
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm just doing my best just to connect with the being and let my son answer, ask the questions. So what we asked was, first, was that your ship that we just saw? And, he's like, yeah. And so my son asked, well, what were the lights we just saw? And it was so cool because what they explained, I mean, this is like, you can't make this shit up.
Right.
Excuse me. Like,
Right.
But so they said that these 3 sets of lights okay, understand when you look at light shines out at you. When you look at it from a distance, it's a starburst kind of effect or whatever.
Right.
These were like the light was being sucked in. There was no light emanating out. It was like just seeing it kind of sucked in. I don't know how to explain it. So it wasn't like it would light up the ground. So we were like, what was this thing that we saw, these lights? And they said that it was their form of propulsion, and that for us to think of it in terms similar to photosynthesis, like how plants utilize
Use light for.
Yeah.
So it's a process like that. So it's a benign process, but because the way they explained it was that it's what they use when they are closer to the Earth's surface so that they don't disturb. Ooh, this is like so cool. They don't disturb.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't disturb the wildlife, the trees, the flora, fauna, or whatever. So it's like, okay, cool. We got a solid answer. And so we said, well, who are we speaking to? And I didn't recall the name, unfortunately, because we didn't record any of this either, even though my phone is sitting right
there in your hand. Yeah.
So then we asked, well, who are we speaking to? And this individual explained, it felt like more of a, I don't want to say masculine because he didn't sound masculine, but I mean, he sounded male, but not, so anyway, he said that they're a hive mentality and that he's connected with others that aren't just right there with him. So he was letting me know that more people were listening to this conversation, which was like, whoa.
That's common, yeah.
But he said that he was the spokesperson for the group, just for the purpose of me having that tangible to reach out to. So I was like, okay. See, like all of this is super legit. Like, isn't it crazy?
Yeah. This is great.
So, we said, well, what are you doing here? And, they said that I don't remember the response to that, but we said, why are you showing up at this time? Or why are so many ships supposedly showing up at this time? And this I found interesting because they said, we tried it the other way where we would contact governments and give and exchange information, and the governments were holding on to this information and then using it to empower themselves over the people.
Right.
And this can no longer be.
Yep.
And so now we're making direct contact to prepare everyone, and that's why everyone's seeing more contact.
Part of the disclosure process, yeah.
Yep. Isn't that like...
That's fascinating, and so many nuggets in there to pick up on. One is, because I'm right now on just finished the 3rd chapter for my new book, which is about the 12 starseed clusters, the original source clusters that founded our galaxy. And in there, I just wrote, this chapter was on the Orions, and I just wrote a section in that chapter about disclosure. And the understanding is that disclosure is going to happen through each one of us, not by them coming to the government or the government telling us that ETs exist. It's not going to come that way because the government's never going to tell you that ETs exist, because then you don't have a need for the government any longer or any other organizational body, whether it be the church or whatever. So they're going to make contact either that way where you see a visual and you're like, oh my gosh, or through the channeling mechanism or the contact energetically, not necessarily channeling, but connecting with you energetically. And that's how disclosure is going to happen. So little by little, we're all going to come online and go, oh yeah, of course this is real. We've had our own experience, our own encounter.
Non-terrifying experience.
Yeah. And then the hive mind is interesting because the Zetas are a hive mind.
Yeah.
And when we have made contact with them early on, in fact, I almost forgot about that session with you and Judy working on me.
Oh, that's right.
But they you can connect with one being and it communicates to all. And also when we talk to groups of animals, collectives of animals, they come in as talking to one individual, one elephant or whatever, but all elephants
are connected. Yeah.
get that energetic awareness of what the conversation was about.
Huh. You know, it's never occurred to me to like just go, hey, let's sit down and channel, see if we can reach out to these guys and, you know, find out who they were. Or
Well, I was going to ask you, did you ever
No, we
ask
didn't.
us? Okay, so
it
we
never
can.
occurred to me, you know, all this stuff right in front of you and you just kind of, I don't know.
And the cell phone's right in your hand.
Yeah.
Okay, next Thursday, we do, by the way, for all those in the audience, we do a free monthly channeling, Messages from the Collective, on the second Thursday of every single month here in the Treehouse at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's usually up on Will's YouTube channel, which is probably where you're watching this, unless you're on Samantha's channel, of course. They come up the next day around noon if you can't catch it live. But if you are attending live and you think about it ahead of time, shoot me an email and I'll ask your question for you, time permitting.
Yep.
Well, it's here and it's on Zoom.
Yep. It's on Zoom and
Because you're
and
saying
live.
it's here, it's, yeah.
I mean, here we're live, broadcasting live from the Treehouse here via Zoom. Yes.
Yes.
But we'll put that on the list for the next time because it could have been your ship,
Could have been. I don't know.
or it could be a Zeta ship, or it could be a ship that has a Zeta on it, or whatever being that was.
Well, now what's kind of crazy about from that time, and my son's very cavalier about this, is that he and his friends, I mean, a lot of people have talked about sightings off the beaches in like Charleston down to Hilton Head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said he was out on the beach with a bunch of his friends and they sat there and they had video. Like they thought to get their cell phones out. And, you know, but they've never, I don't know that they've ever posted it or done anything with it, but a lot of people were accounting this, but he saw it too. There were several objects, you know, going around. And it's funny because when people say, "Oh, that's weather balloons," and it's this and
Oh,
it's
my
that,
goodness.
when you truly see it, it's like, nope, it's the movement.
no doubt.
You can't move like that.
It's interesting you bring up off the beaches of Charleston and, you know, along the South Carolina coast. This was probably 2 years ago.
Oh gosh, it was longer than that. It was
Maybe 3 years ago.
pre-COVID stuff.
Yeah.
It might have been around
maybe, that's
2019
right.
also.
Yeah, maybe it was. But our friend Judy Buchanan, myself and Allison, a couple other people were down at Folly Beach. And it was one of those nights that it was going to be a full moon. And
we were down there for the full moon drum circle, but I had gotten the date wrong.
Yeah.
On purpose, evidently.
Yes.
Right.
Because nobody else was there.
Nobody,
It was just us.
So we were just there, which was great because we were just chit-chatting, and as the sun's setting behind us, you know, we're looking east. It's one of those nights where the sky is completely clear. There's not a cloud on the horizon. You know how if anybody's been ever to the coast and they go there for the sunset and stuff, there's usually some sort of I'll call it thermal activity of clouds on the horizon. You can see them kind of, they almost look like little mountains or little ridges. It wasn't that kind of night. I mean, it was one of those nights where the water was just calm and clear all the way out to the horizon, and then it met the sky. And then the moon was starting to come up. Well, as the moon started
Gorgeous.
As the moon broke the horizon and came up above the horizon, and this is how it kind of interestingly unfolded. We're all in a conversation with one another, and we're sitting there talking to each other, and this, I guess some would say, a shadowy figure.
This random dude.
But he was silhouetted in a way that this guy was literally walking along the water's edge, and we were maybe 30 feet from the water's edge. He's walking there, and instantly our gaze all went to him, and we were like, well, that's strange. Where did he come from? And that was what drew us to the horizon. On the horizon, this big mass was on the horizon.
Now, it wasn't as clear as your ship. It wasn't that clear.
It looked like it could have been a cloud,
Yeah.
but when you scanned the horizon, there were no other clouds.
Yeah.
But then it went from this big circle thing to breaking off into two sections. So there were one big one and two
And those
sections.
two sections started coming close.
Right.
So there was spatial separation between what was on the horizon and what
so
was.
clouds don't move quite like that.
It was.
Yeah.
So we were all just. Everybody seeing
We're all
it?
like, you.
Did we get our phones out? No, because we're all mesmerized by what we're seeing.
But we did channel about
Yeah.
that, and it was those three ships, like 2
Yep.
satellite ships and a mothership or whatever.
Yep.
And we said, well, why did you show up? And they said, because you asked us to. Because we were asking
Yeah,
out
we
there.
were.
We're like, it's really quiet. Hey, Zeta, come on down.
Right.
You know, you could land right here. Nobody would ever know it.
Yeah. So the intention is, okay, we're going to call them
So
in.
you have had an encounter.
Well,
I just
right.
wish it was a little bit more.
Distinct.
Isn't it? But see,
But-
we
Yeah,
never
yeah.
get enough.
I know, you're right.
You know, and then we were up here in the treehouse doing kind of like a group Reiki session and little Reiki circle. It was another day out here looking through the big patio door where the sky was that perfect blue. Sun wasn't on this side of the treehouse yet. It wasn't setting to the west. It was still above. But it was one of those days where the blue was so crisp and just so clean.
And no
not
clouds, yeah.
a cloud in the sky. And great afternoon. So I'm at the crown working with this fellow, and Allison is working on the feet, and other fellows working in the midsections, and we're just going at it with Reiki. And I get this sense, this knowing, to open my eyes and look out the patio door. So I'm
Tapping you on the shoulder.
right. So I look up and I look out the patio door, and what do I see out there? I see this oval cloud.
Tic-tac.
Big tic-tac oval cloud. And it looked like a cloud, but there were no other clouds around. And I was like, in my brain, I'm like, do I need to let everybody know? Nope, I'm just going to go right back at it. So I did. And as I did, I felt this presence of this being settle into the room and start working. And I thought it was the fellow I was working on. And in a subsequent channeling session.
You mean you thought the being was there for the client?
For the
Yeah,
client,
yeah, yeah.
right? Not for myself or whatever. But in a subsequent session, we determined it was a blue avian that came into the room, because when I felt
they're
that
tall,
presence,
really
when I
tall,
felt that
yeah.
presence settle in, my gaze, my meditative gaze went up through the ceiling, and we've got 9-foot ceilings in this room, and it was above this ceiling, so it was huge. Well, as I'm working, I could feel that energy settle out, and it kind of dissipated, and I could feel just that whole energy dissipate. Mm-hmm. And I was like, let me look back outside. Well, at that point, I look outside, and it had moved from where it was, just a couple hand widths over. And as I'm looking at it, it literally went nothing.
Yeah.
In just absolute nothing.
Yeah, like that's like what. Yeah, it was like that, drawing down and gone.
Yeah. Just
And listen, this is
dematerialized into nothing. Yeah.
we're like little kids talking about this because we're so excited, but yet we talk to them all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
like we just haven't had a whole lot of physical encounters.
Yeah.
And those are exciting, but we talk to them all the time, and it's marvelous. And we have, this whole book with the 12 Starseeds is completely channeled. I've talked to every one of them, and it's fascinating.
So I'll ask this of you, because you have this information in that Rolodex, right? In that encyclopedia of information,
Yes.
of the channeled information. And I think we've talked about this before, but some of our audience might be asking, well, how come I don't see them? Why, I'm intentionally saying, I want to see a ship.
Yeah.
I want to see a ship in front of me. I want to see a ship out there.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
That's one aspect
Yeah.
of it, of how can they make that happen, or why is it that, I guess it's the same thing, but why is it that some don't see him and some do?
So the only thing I can say is, for us, when we asked, they said, you already believe, we don't need to show up for you. That's
Look,
essentially
they make such perfect sense.
right. And then I know other, like Daryl Anka, that channels Bashar.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's interesting, is those beings can show up to somebody and not to another. Even if you're all on the same road, some will see it and some
Yes.
won't. So they
Yeah.
can make
I
that
guess that's
happen.
my point. That's what I'm
So
trying
I
to
think
get at.
that point is, it's part of your contract. You made an agreement with those beings to show up to change the trajectory of your life at that point, or to help you become aware, because you need to be aware of this. But for those who really would like to see one, you can try out the CE5 protocol by
Yep.
Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer.
He has an entire protocol of being able to call in ships.
We need to remember to put that link down there. If there's
Yeah.
a link to that.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Well, you can, Google search him. He's all
Okay.
over the place.
He actually has a good Netflix. I think it's on Netflix, or
He has
maybe it's
several
on
movies.
Amazon. It's called CE5. I think it's called.
Really?
He
Okay.
has several movies.
Yeah, it's or undisclosed or something like
One of
that.
the- yeah.
But it's
Dr.
all
Stephen Greer.
It's all about a practice of using meditation and breath work and different things of being able to call in ships.
And
they don't land, but they do come
show up.
into awareness is what the whole purpose of it is. So
by using collective consciousness.
Yes.
And what do they call that? Triangulation.
Triangulation,
Everybody's
yeah.
thinking of where you are so that your consciousness is drawing those beings' ship right into your vision.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when Daryl Anka talks about, how they decided with the Essassani that, that just focusing on the inverted triangle and, holding that vision in space, that they were using that, they had decided that would be that imagery, that symbol that would help connect you, would bring that information in. So that's...
Open a portal of energy.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So along
Makes
the
sense.
same line. Yeah. That is extremely cool.
Yeah, so shortly after we were introduced to the Zeta and had some conversations with the Zeta, he's very, like I said, they don't have emotion, so he's very dry. And to me, he's hysterical, but he's like the straight man, and I'll tell you a story about that. But anyway, so Judy, our friend from Maryland, we talk about her all the time. She's marvelous, but she comes down from Maryland periodically. She'll be here this weekend, but I see her Thursday. Yay. When she comes down, the three of us always play in the energy. And so we had gotten done, I think it was at the beach, and I was tired. I think this helped. So I was really tired. Luckily, I didn't fall asleep, but that helped me to relax and get my left brain out of the way. So I was laying down. I don't remember. Were you at the feet, head, whatever?
I was at the feet. Judy was at the head. And so to kind of set that stage, that's the first time myself and Judy worked together doing Reiki. And
Reiki,
doing
energy
Reiki.
work of some sort, whatever they were doing.
And so we were literally sitting. I was sitting at the feet. Judy was sitting at the head.
This is at the beach on
this is at our house.
This was at your house. Okay.
At the house.
She was visiting. We took a day at the beach, and we came home. We were tired, but we still wanted to do energy work. So
So Allison was laying on the massage table.
You're playing.
And just to relax or whatever. And I'm sitting there. I had my eyes closed. I already did my little invocation. Judy already had her little invocation, did her little thing. And we both opened our eyes and looked across the table at each other, and we just got this big rush of energy. And we both stood up, and we both high-fived each other over the top of Allison. It was like the Wonder Twins activating. It was, and then we say that.
That's what we say, the Wonder
We still say that together. When she comes out, it's like Wonder Twins activate.
I can't wait for her to watch this.
Right.
She'll go, yeah.
Exactly. And Allison opened her eyes. What's going on? What's going on? I'm like, it's all good.
Don't worry.
It's all good.
Because they just get excited because we all feel this electric energy that runs through us when we get together.
Yeah.
So anyway, shortly after closing my eyes and they started working on me, and luckily I was able to get into that relaxed state, I literally saw a Zeta face come right here like this in my third eye as I was sleeping. And then, or I wasn't sleeping, I was meditating, right?
Yeah.
Saw the Zeta face, and then all these other Zeta heads popped in. It was the most incredible experience. But it felt like
they've had experiences. They just want the physical.
Yeah. But I felt like I was like on an operating table, and all these beings were looking over me like watching something to take place. And so, of course, we asked afterwards in a channeling about it, and they said, yeah, you invited us in, and everybody wanted to watch what was going on. It's kind of like they said, I don't know, I guess if you're in college and, hey, the professors are going to do this demo in room such and such on a Saturday afternoon, whoever wants to show up. So that's kind of what happened. There was a call put out. Anybody that wants to show up and watch this human and the energy work and all of that, come on.
Right.
So they did. They showed up like that. It was really fascinating.
Yeah, it was really cool. That was a fun session.
Because it was the most vivid. I'm not the most intuitive. I don't always see visions and get information as easily as you guys do. So it was just so exciting to have that happen. Yeah.
Well, so I did connect with, and I want this to be on the recording.
Okay.
Because, my son will not appreciate that I've recorded this, because he'll be like, let's see if this really happens. But when he came home and told me about seeing those, all the different UFOs or whatever you call them now, whatever the proper
UAPs.
Yeah.
So it's UAP.
Yeah.
He always asks me very interesting questions when we go out for an errand. Right, we're in the car together. So we've backed up to the house and we're sitting in the car, and he's telling me about this whole experience. And he goes, Mom, could you reach out and ask why I saw that? And I'm like, sure. So I'm sitting there in the car just going, sure, why not, And what was really cool was they were talking about that it was important for him to become aware of them because he was going to be working alongside in some aspect.
Nice.
Wow.
And, he's into computer science, data science, and just, I don't know where he'll end up taking that, but it's like, when they were saying that, the truth of it that was hitting me, how it resonated, and he's just kind of going, yeah, no, that's not happening.
Right.
But I'm just like, it doesn't matter whether you think or not, I'm just like, this is what they're saying is that, because I was like, how come I haven't seen anymore? How come he got to see some? And they said that they were preparing him, so I don't know what that's
Love
about.
it.
And down the road, it would be.
Well, that's why I say it is part of your contract. There's a reason certain people see them and certain people don't.
Yep.
You know what I don't care for is like, okay, so we're so fearful of them. I mean, okay, so you've got people who've had these encounters, and that's a separate thing we can talk about in a minute. But the first thing I want to talk about is that so many of us have such a fear of all of this because it's the unknown, but it's also because of how they're portrayed in movies, because there always has to be an antagonist. And even like, I love, the movie Paul. Did y'all see that?
No.
Oh, Jesus, you guys have got to see that. Okay, so Paul with Seth Rogen. And Paul is an ET that was left behind. Yeah. And he's got a very trash mouth and everything. He is so awesome. He's like a small gray. And, but anyway, it was a lot of fun. But nonetheless, because in a movie, you have to have the antagonist.
Yeah.
And so, Paul was totally cool, but, it was the government who was bad in this one. But, there's fear, there's this, there's that. It's always got to be this setup. There, and it's like, it'd be so nice if you could have a movie about this kind of stuff, exploration, that I guess that's where Interstellar and things like that come into play, where they're trying to get more at the truth and like self-discovery in the process, hopefully.
Yeah.
But, they still got to go sensational.
Well, it's got to be Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah. Or with Jodie Foster's thing.
Contact.
Contact, yeah.
Arrival's another great one. I just watched that again. That's, to me, I think that's that. And if you could blend Contact and Arrival together, that's how disclosure is going to unfold.
Oh, I've
in multiple different ways. Yeah. Definitely. If you have not seen Arrival, it's a really, really good movie.
Okay, and then you guys got to watch Paul.
Yeah, I'll have to put it on my thing.
And you need to have a drink while you're watching it. Totally irreverent, but it's kind of like, hey, if you get an alien and this ne'er-do-well together, it's just kind of like, what's going to happen?
Sure.
Because they're not going to just appear to erudite people that they're going to appear to just each and every one, just whatever. It's like, anyway, I just found that just really, really fascinating. How the construct of how they've made it that fearful kind of thing, and it doesn't need to be. There's
from
no
the day
sense
of
in it.
Orson Welles forward, right?
Oh yeah, geez, yeah. Oh,
right.
And people really freaked out about
War of the
that
Worlds
stuff.
to today. Right. They've been portrayed, and a lot of it has to do with, in my belief, it has to do with the suppression of the truth of what the aliens are actually here for. They've been here, and they'll remain here. I mean, but one would say, well, how come I don't see them? Well, because you're not meant to see them. Yeah. But they are here.
It doesn't help their mission for us to realize that they are actually not,
Well, it doesn't help the government's mission, right?
Doesn't, right.
Well, and the thing is, and to say that, with their appearance or like we're saying, War of the Worlds kind of stuff, where they're coming in and taking over and that kind of stuff, and we tend to see it like that. But there is a grain of truth behind that, because there is, we would be naive to sit there and go, well, no, there isn't, a contrast of power,
there's
give and
duality
take.
in it,
So, I mean, through channelings, through, well, that's the only thing to me that I can say is as close to verifiable is to hear from a bunch of different channels who don't even know each other, and they're channeling somewhat similar information. And they talk about, that there are struggles, beyond Earth about what's going on, especially with this experiment called Earth, So, Yeah, you could play on it a little bit, but the fact that, they're going to come in and mine us for everything we're worth, and, it's very human nature, and it's very base.
Yeah.
Right. And on that note, I think we need a part 2.
Yeah, okay.
Because there's so much to talk
this
about.
This is a very, very
We were like, what are we going to talk
deep,
about?
Yeah.
And I need to keep going with that.
Yeah, there's
But
a lot.
Okay.
We're gonna let's
We'll
put
table
part
it. We'll
one,
table it here as part 1,
and let's
we'll,
do a part 2 real soon.
Yep.
And we want to thank you guys for coming on this ride with us, because the ET phenomenon is here to stay. It's exciting, and there's lots to learn. And
Yes.
thank you for sharing in this with us. Thank you for watching and spending your time. Click the subscribe. Click the notification. Share this if you found it valuable, so that other people can learn.
comment. Yep.
Definitely
please.
comment, because we'd like to be able to come
Comment.
in and answer questions
Yep.
for you.
Yep, for
Yeah,
sure.
do some commenting in terms of what topics you want
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
as
Yeah,
well.
that too, for sure.
And how you liked it and what can we do better.
Yep.
Yeah, what do you want to see? Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.